Okay, item 6A, ordinance first reading.
Item 6A is an ordinance of the City of Margate, Florida, amending Chapter 33, Police and Law Enforcement, Offenses and Miscellaneous Provisions, Article 1, Offenses, Miscellaneous Provisions, adding new Section 33-34, Public Camping or Sleeping Prohibited, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for an effective date. This ordinance is before you for first reading this evening.
What is the wish of the board?
Motion to approve.
Second. David,
Explain it.
this is matching our laws to the state laws, correct?
Well, it's not necessarily matching to the state law. What happened this legislative session was that the Florida legislature and then the governor signed a bill that provides for a new provision in Florida law that could potentially impose civil liability on a municipality, such as the City of Margate, for failing to enforce or failing to prevent individuals from engaging in public camping or sleeping in any public property, including any public right-of-way under the jurisdiction of the city. So if a property owner files a complaint and claims that the city has failed to enforce or prevent public camping in public rights-of-way, the city could potentially be held liable in court for damages as well as attorney's fees and costs. So in reviewing this current city code, there were no provisions related to public camping or sleeping prohibitions in the code. So we worked with the police department in drafting up some code provisions that will be able to be used as a defense by the city in the event that anybody seeks to bring any kind of civil action against the city. The ordinance that we're presenting tonight is consistent with Florida law as well as the recent case decided by the United States Supreme Court that found that it was not cruel and unusual punishment to jail someone who was camping or sleeping in public or was homeless. So what we've done is we've drafted this language. It provides for a lot of options other than jail, other than arrest. It encourages the police department or anybody who's interacting with the homeless on behalf of the city to find other solutions and only have the arrest of an individual as a last resort.
Thank you for that, because it's important that we're doing this for protecting ourselves, to be closer to what the state law is, to keep ourselves from being in a litigious situation that we would probably get crushed and caught on if we didn't do this.
Vice Mayor.
It's truly sad that we have, regardless of party, that we have legislators who see a problem and don't offer a solution other than criminalizing people who are homeless and making it a problem that's not easy to solve, because it's not as though there are enough shelters to start with. There are not, and I fully expect, because we've heard it before, that people will call and complain. There's somebody sleeping in a bus shelter. There's somebody sitting at Walmart sleeping in a wheelchair. It is pretty sad that we vote for and send people to Tallahassee who have lost their sense of common decency and their moral compass, and so that we get laws that hurt people. There's nothing good, there's no solution. I learned a long time ago, if you have a problem, offer a solution. We do better up here providing solutions, whether we all agree or not, than our state does, and that's a real shame. And everybody should remember this. I don't care what your party is, a homeless person is a homeless person. Nobody asks to see who they voted for or what circumstances put them where they are. And it is a real sad day for this country and this state. Someone being homeless is now a criminal, and worse would be if they move from a spot to a spot and then they're arrested and then they're fined. To pay the fine with what? There are very few people in this world who would choose being homeless as opposed to having a place to sleep at night. So it's a really sad day for all of us, and I'm sure every city, all 411 now that I know we have in the state of Florida, to have to go through this to protect cities from being sued if they don't do and criminalize these people, because there are people out there that will sue the city and make a fortune doing it because they can. And so my comment is that shame on the governor and shame on every person sitting up there that voted for this. And that I hope that each person that did winds up having that issue in their backyard, and has residents come to them and tell them how horrible they've become, that this is a solution to a problem without a solution. Well, that's pretty much all I have to say.
Commissioner Sarah.
Yeah, a couple things, in layman's terms, to what the city attorney said mostly, and to some of the comments up here. The state identified an issue, came up with no solution, and said, we're gonna make it a crime to sleep in public, but the cities, you all figure it out.
Right.
And they want us to arrest, whatever, but then we gotta pay for the prosecution, we gotta pay for the public defender, so it's a whole mess.
And if you pick someone up, you also have to protect their goods and whatever they come with, and you have to inventory them.
So this is to comply with state law. Arrest should be a last resort, most extreme case. I mean, it has to be really bad, but there will be people, because I get complaints about homeless all the time,
I know that.
and they absolutely will hold the city accountable if we don't enforce whatever the state imposes, whether we like it or not. I do hope that we can all, I know at the Florida League of Cities conference this past week, there was a session on tackling this issue. I did attend it, but I think that we need to, Kale, if you could be vigilant for any courses that the county offers or seminars, because I do think this is going to be an issue for a while. And in some cities, you might see a spike in homeless because they're going to be displaced.
They're gonna move
Because I
from
can
place to
assure you,
place.
and I don't want to
Of
name
course.
other cities, but there's some very affluent cities around here that are going to push them out, and
Absolutely,
they're going to end up here.
absolutely.
And it's a tough situation for someone to be in. So you certainly have to be compassionate. But there are some issues that the city does need to address with this. I get, there's a lot of people that complain about the homeless just because they don't like them and whatever. And that shouldn't be. But I do get, and it's not just been one, it's been several complaints about single moms with their kids at city parks, and there's homeless there during the day, sleeping and bathing, literally bathing in the splash pad. And it makes them feel uncomfortable and they don't want to go there. So I think we need to find some common ground where you're not sending people off to jail. But I don't think they should be bathing and showering in our kids' splash pads. A lot of homeless too, they're displaced. Whether it's a storm that happens and they get moved from shelter to shelter, whatever. Can the city, with some of the ARPA funds or funds made available because of ARPA, can we provide like a bus ticket for up to a certain amount if they, have family in Orlando or somewhere else, that if they just can get home, but they can't afford to get there?
I think you're gonna find a lot of people who can't afford their new insurance and the reserves that they have to fund in their condos. And we're gonna see a great many people who find themselves either being thrown out of their home and homeless for no fault of their own. And that's a whole other issue of an elderly population that we may find out on the streets.
Good.
I was
Commissioner
just going to touch on that. I have, a couple of meetings ago, we had people from Palm Springs come here and talk about how, I don't remember, I think they had like 500 units or something like that, but of which 51 of them were already in foreclosure because people couldn't pay their HOA fees. All right, and the HOAs are leaning them and throwing out people. So you've got homeless people who are homeless because they can't afford, as you just said, their insurance. You got homeless people who are homeless because they can't afford their HOAs. You've got homeless people who who are homeless because someone raised their rent on their apartment $400 a month or whatever it is. We've got people who are working full-time jobs and who can't afford to live someplace. That's not even talking about the people who are homeless because they're homeless. We're talking about people who are working, Americans, who can't have a place to, who don't have a place to live. And the thought of arresting these people and finding these people when they're already in a situation where they can't find the home to live in is barbaric. But we have to protect ourselves and we have to protect all our residents, and that's why we're doing what we're doing today. Prisons should not be housing complexes, and housing complexes that are going to separate the kids from the family, because you're not going to have family cells in the prisons. So this is just, it's just barbaric everywhere we go.
It's overwhelming.
It's barbaric, and sadly we had to make this rule to protect ourselves against lawsuits, and we're going to have to do whatever we've got to do to maintain the standards that are put upon us to not make ourselves litigious, or not to make ourselves being the ones who are sued. It's not a good thing, but we have no choice with how things are going right now but to do this.
One more thing too, you know how Broward is viewed up in Tallahassee.
Oh, yeah.
One slip up and you know.
They'll be removing the state attorney. They'll be removing everyone they can get their hands on to remove. They tried that with the school board. It didn't work.
Well,
long term
it didn't work.
Long term it didn't work. But the thing is this is a state that will make sure that we are as punitive as possible with people who can afford it the least.
I believe it's also the first time that there are more people leaving the state of Florida than
Yeah.
there are now moving into the state of Florida, simply because of the insurance and the fees. And that's like a first.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're working just a regular job on 441, and then all of a sudden they raise your rent $300 a month, you're out. Where are you gonna go if you're only making $15 an hour, $600 a week, take taxes out, then you're paying $1,500 a month for rent, then you gotta have a car to get there. It's impossible to do all this. And imagine having to go to jail because you can't,
And you can't pay the fine.
because you can't pay the
That
fine.
is, you know.
It's horrible. All right, I'm done.
All right. So guys, basically what we're doing here is putting an item together to protect the city. I think you could tell by the way people are speaking up here, there's no way in hell that we're going to be proactive if this comes about. If you see somebody, they need help, walk by. Don't call the cops on them. Have respect. Be compassionate. Love thy neighbor. Help them out. This is only going to be as good as what we make it to be. So lead by example. If you see somebody, help them. Do what you can to help them. What's it? It sucks because of what's going on, but wait till somebody in Tallahassee, wait till one of their family members goes through this.
One can only
And they
hope.
get thrown in jail. They're gonna have a little bit different feeling about it. It's a major problem. It's all over the place. It's just so hard to make it right now. It's extremely hard. So we all need to work together. Our community needs to start. I think the commission here stated how they feel about it. So, we just all need to work together on this. It's not going to be something where one city's going to win. So, maybe we can write a letter to the county and ask for the county. They get the big funds. They get the federal funding. They get all that. Let them try to help us figure it out. But we don't have the money to house everybody. If we did, I guarantee you everybody up here would do it. I guarantee you. But we don't. But we can come up with suggestions, and we have great, like we talked about, volunteers, community advocates. So whatever we can do, let's just work together as a team for this. But this is just protecting the city. That's all this is doing. Just getting out of us of any sort of litigious future problems.
Or give us something to be able to put our back to, because we've actually been doing this. It won't prevent us from being sued. It hopefully will prevent us from them winning.
Having to pay for it.
Okay, so right this time, we're going to open it up to the public. So if anybody would like to speak.
And while she's coming up, this is first reading, so this ordinance will come back if you approve it tonight for second reading in September.
Hi, Margie, Patton. A couple of things. I think most of you know that I handle most of the homeless population here in the city of Margate, and I have for the past 3 years. If you call 211 Broward, they send you to the Legacy Closet. DCF, Children Protective Services and Adult Protective Services, transfer their cases in Margate to the legacy closet. I became a certified trauma homeless outreach specialist last year. I worked and trained with Broward Sheriff's Office Homeless Outreach Department, and I consider myself pretty knowledgeable in the area of homelessness. My question to the city is there a budget for homeless outreach in the city?
Can't answer that offhand. I don't think we have a specific budget for it, but I think our police department has some sort of involvement.
I've talked to a couple of the police officers or people involved with homeless outreach in Margate PD. Couple of things is what the plan, from what I understand in Margate right now, is that they're gonna send them to, the answer is send them to the shelter. The problem with that is there's no shelter availability in Broward County right now. There's a waiting list. And if they do go to the task force and the task force gets them in, it's what they call a compassion stay. And they stay in the facility on a cot and they're asked to leave at 5:30 in the morning. And then they're back out on the streets. So sending them to the task force, I don't know if anybody knows this, you go to the task force, they roll down their window, they take your name and number, they have 3 beds available countywide for all the homeless people. So if City of Margate takes their homeless people to the shelter and dumps them there, you're not gonna be worried, you're not gonna have to worry about residents suing you. You're gonna have to worry about the city of Pompano suing you for dumping your homeless people. And that's something I don't hear any of you talk about. And there's a solution to that. I can call Michelle Gomez, the mayor of Tamarack, right now at this hour and say, Michelle, I have a homeless person in the city of Tamarack. Can you help me? You want to know what the city of Tamarack does to combat their homeless? They buy housing vouchers from the shelters, and how you alleviate the problem of the dumping syndrome, or they call it the Hobo Express, is what law enforcement calls it, is they transfer them to a city. Once a homeless person is registered into a different city, where Tamarack uses the Caring Place, and I know my time's cutting short, they buy a bed there. That person is no longer a Tamarack resident. They're a Hollywood resident. They're not your problem anymore. So I would hope that Margate, whether I voluntarily help you build a plan, we can clean the city up and get the people safe without a dead end or lawsuits happening in the city.
I have a comment.
Yes.
At one time, we had $10,000 cumulative to donate to worthy causes. Now, instead, it is $2,000 a person that we have up here. I have not used mine yet, and on October 1st, it will either go back to the budget or get used. So I will donate my $2,000 for vouchers for you to use for the homeless in the city of Margate.
That's very honorable of you, thank you. I can get you connected with a place called the Caring Place there in Hollywood, and once the residents, we also have a program through Legacy Closet, but it's not a permanent placement, so it would be temporary, but getting services rendered in continuum of care so these people can regain and capture their lives back, that would be a great blessing. Because right now there's 107, as of today, there is 107 homeless youth in the city of Margate registered in Broward County Schools. And you can call Broward County Schools Heart Program tomorrow morning and verify those numbers. That number was given to me this morning.
We will figure out how to do that, right, City Manager, before October 1st, so it doesn't go back to the budget?
Thank you for your time. Just remember that homeless person sleeping outside your apartment complex is your neighbor too.
They say you're only one paycheck away from that.
Is there anybody else?
Thank you, Arlene.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Arlene.
You're welcome.
Thank you, and what she said.
There's a personal account too, you can ask her.
Very cute.
There's plenty more where that came from. All right. Call the roll.
Commissioner Caggiano?
Yes.
Commissioner Simone?
Yes.
Commissioner Serio?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Rosano?
Yes, good move.